Guys, welcome to the next podcast for September. You will see Curtis is back this time.
Hi guys.
So obviously I'm joined by the lovely Curtis.
And I'm joined by Ashleigh.
And today we want to talk about employment. But first, before we do that, I want to talk about what's been going on over the past month. And I know that you've been getting up to a few quite interesting things.
I have. Last month I was actually selected as a baton bearer for the Commonwealth. Myself and my dad, who run the organisation Tracy's Dream, we was nominated by a lovely couple that we know from when we do Tribute Night promotions. We got selected in May, but we didn't actually do it till July, and the whole experience was overwhelming, because no one's ever going to experience that ever again. But I'm honoured that I got the opportunity to do it.
And how far did you actually have to walk?
I don't actually know, but my dad did explain my accessibilities because of my legs. So I didn't walk that far because of my legs.
Yeah. So now, obviously, I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit disappointed because we did say a couple of podcasts ago that you were going to wear your baton bearer outfit. So
my bad.
I'm not angry, Curtis. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, my bad.
I'll let it go. So can you just remind us what the podcast topic is about, please?
Employment.
Yeah, so to start us off, I thought it would be really good to have an interview with the lovely Pure team who work with Midland Mencap. So, as I say, we were joined by Jadene and Raj as well from Pure to have a chat about the services that they provide. So thank you guys for coming here today. Is it possible to just introduce yourselves and obviously tell us what Pure is?
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jadene from the Pure Project Intervention Worker at Midland Mencap.
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting us as well. My name's Raj, and I oversee the Pure Project with my 3 intervention workers. Jadene's one. We have another 2 employed staff. One's Diane and one's Kelly. Okay. So your question was, what is the Pure Project? So the Pure Project is an exciting project that supports people with complex needs towards education, training or employment. The scheme is about building confidence, developing useful skills and opening doors. You'll receive a one-to-one support and find the path that works for you best. Okay. What's unique about the Pure is you're not just getting one Pure provider. There's 8 Pure providers that come with Pure. So I'm just going to mention some of them to you and what services they offer. We work with Rathbone, who actually support people with learning disabilities, Birmingham Mind, mental health, Cranston, ex-offenders, people on probation as well, Women Aid, these people support people with domestic abuse as well, domestic violence. Trident, they deal with homeless, Fair Share, who actually help everyone, but they help with food supply, people who are poverty stricken as well. And BID support people with deaf and visual impairment. But what we do is, if we've got someone with a learning disability but has a visual impairment, what we'll do is both providers will work with each other to support them. So that's something what the Pure Project does, where a lot of other programs only come as one provider.
So it's more on a simultaneous level, because that's one of the things that I say across the board with what I do, particularly with Include Me. Actually, quite a lot of information that we try and look for. It's a bit like a secret society because no one seems to have it. But I do think that's mainly because organisations don't work on a simultaneous level the way they should do to make sure that the people that they're supporting are being given the absolute best support possible. So it's really good to hear, actually, from your guys' point of view, you are working alongside each of those other organisations to make sure that the services that you're providing across the board is completely simultaneous, which is really important, I think.
I think, and most important is, when you're working with someone with a learning disability, when you've got 9 other Pure providers supporting you as well, that personal-centred approach is, one person will deal with that person, but they'll bring on all those other additional services to that as well. So one person will deliver that and pass that service on. And so, especially where if one person's getting about 8 phone calls from different organisations and professionals, it's very daunting. And you'll forget people with learning disabilities won't know who they're speaking to or not. So that's what's so unique about us.
Thank you. Had one as well, didn't you, Curtis?
Yeah, what support does Pure offer?
So we offer quite a range of support. It's quite a broad range. But at Mencap, so we support people with disabilities. It could be anything as mild as dyslexia to anything physical. So we'll support adults 25 plus, but we can work with you if you're from 21, as long as there's a need for the support there.
Yeah.
And we can help with things like job searching. So we do like job clubs every week in different locations. We can help you with, like creating a CV from scratch, or if it just needed updating, we can do that. Gosh, there's loads.
Okay, yeah. I think additional things what we can do is we can help you find job fairs as well. So if there's a job fair in your local area, we'll know those dates and we'll get in touch with DWP. We work with the local job centres quite closely as well. So a lot of our clients, if there are new jobs coming up, we can find where they are. We work with companies such as Mediquip. We've got a volunteer scheme where some of our staff have got employed jobs there as well. So it's looking at that person's needs and looking at their hobbies or their interest and finding out what best works for them. The one key factor is not putting someone in a position where they're waking up that next day and thinking, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that training. Me and Jadene, when we go and meet our clients, it's very important that we want to know that they get up that next day, they're excited to go into that role.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big thing. I know from my point of view, I've been in the position, my very first job, I absolutely hated it. Couldn't stand it. I'd dread going to work. I'd literally be waiting for Friday to come. I'd go home. That would be my favourite day as soon as I'd finished work. But then come Sunday, I'd be dreading it again, because I'd have to travel about 45 minutes to get to work. By that point, my hip was hurting and everything. The staff there, I wouldn't have said were very supportive necessarily of my needs. And bearing in mind that was my very first job, I wasn't in a position where I knew straight away, these are the reasonable adjustments that I'm going to need coming into this role. So it was a massive learning curve for myself as well, really, and I didn't really get the support. And it is a really big thing when you add a disability as well, if you don't enjoy it.
I think to add to that as well, so one thing we do and we're very passionate about is we're not just working with the person with the learning barriers, we're working with the family or the professionals. So we've got individuals who have never been to interviews before. We'll make sure that we go with them for that interview. We'll make sure that pathway is supported with the professional and the person with the learning disabilities. So I've been to interviews where both of me and the client have been to.
And parents have come as well to make them feel more comfortable. And it makes the parent feel more comfortable as well, knowing where their child is going to be for up to 8 hours at a time.
And it is really stressful, because I think as a person with a disability, and I'm sure you're probably exactly the same, Curtis, when it comes to looking at a job, I can't really go anywhere too far away from home, because if it's too far, it'll hurt my hip being in the car for that period of time. Likewise, if I don't know where I'm going, although I've got my independence from the point of view that I can drive, I haven't, because if it's somewhere new that I'm going, it stresses me out. So actually having and working with people, and Midland Mencap are a prime example that are understanding of that. It enables you to be able to do what you're not necessarily comfortable in doing on your own, because you have that support there.
I think a perfect example of Midland Mencap and what the Pure Project can offer is, Jadene will definitely know about this. One of our Pure staff has got a learning disability, and her name's Rachel. And Jadene works with her closely, but she's an employed member of staff.
Yeah, so Rachel was one of my clients back in, I think, 2019 we registered Rachel. And she'd had so much experience, but no one would give her a paid opportunity because of her needs. And it was only something part-time she was looking for. And then we came up with the site assistant role. So it was just little office duties. It could be like shredding, it could be photocopying, just basic things that we need doing that, you know, sometimes we just don't have the time to do. But Rachel's more than capable and more than happy to do these little jobs. So she comes in every Wednesday. If she can't do the Wednesday one week, she's more than happy to change her day as well. And she'll come with us to other events like job fairs, outreach events. And yeah, she comes in every week and does just 4 hours a week.
And I think the other thing we've got to remember is when professionals are working with our clients, they have to understand the needs of our clients and they have to be flexible. It's a two-way thing. We understand we need to deliver a service for our professionals, but our professionals need to understand. And the best example is, I mean, we've had COVID for 2.5 years. Most of our clients have had COVID all their lives. So that's a prime example, what the barriers they've had and the struggles. So, you know, we push for that and we make sure it is. And I've had clients where they've walked into a setting, they rang me 2 hours later and said, Raj, I just don't want to be here.
Yeah,
And I'm more than happy to pull people out and find another replacement than leave someone stranded there for the whole day where they're not happy. So that's a key factor. You've got to be passionate and happy. Yeah.
100%. So obviously you've given us that one example of where you've helped someone be successful at employment with Rachel. Have you got any other examples?
Yeah. I've got a young gentleman. Obviously, I won't disclose his name. Comes from an Asian background. The last time he worked was 25 years ago. He's got an Asian, lived with his mum and dad and his wife and 3 children. He had high autism as well. Didn't really go out, didn't really socialise. His parents were his only form of communication, and his wife. I arranged an interview for him at Medequip. Me, him and his dad went there. But it took me 3 weeks just to engage with him and build up that confidence and build out that course. So when we went for the interview, we all went on the train. So it's making sure that he knows how to get there as well. We went there 3 times. We all attended the interview. And, you know, the beauty of Medequip is the managers over there understand Midland Mencap staff. And that's the most important. You have to know our clients to work with our clients and support our clients. You know, we always say it's a two-way thing. Manjit's been there for 2 years. He's on a paid job. He goes out once a month with the guys now. I remember having a conversation with Mum about 9 months ago, and she broke down in tears. Because it's not just about Manjit finding employment. It's about Mum and Dad getting back to their lifestyle, carrying on with them. We're there with that guy. And now Manjit actually goes out with his wife and his children, where he'll probably stay upstairs and his children will be playing downstairs. So it's not just, you know, finding him employment. It's about his lifestyle and supporting him with that as well and working with the family. And that's what makes Midland Mencap, especially the Pure team, quite different to some of the other Pure providers. I'm very passionate about when we're delivering a service, it's not quantity, it's quality. And that's what I always look for.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree.
I've got one more as well to say to you. Okay, so I've got another one that came through DWP, and it was a young girl. Mom struggled to get her statemented, and we said, look, let's see what we can do. So obviously we went to the GP. We found that there was a learning barrier and everything else. This young girl never went out, didn't like talking to people, felt that the education system had let her down. We were running a course at Fircroft that we would call it producing and developing. So we were there all day supporting our staff. So she finished the course, but she went back doing some of the residential courses at Fircroft as well. Mum was just shocked because it does change a person's life, and she sent out a letter to say thank you very much. But for us, it's, we know that this young lady is one more step further from getting more training, more voluntary work. And, our end goal is to find work as well. And we'll support her with that as well.
Yeah, more independence fundamentally as well, which I think is absolutely a massive thing, really, for people with disabilities. Because we've got, so many more barriers that we've got in our way that we've got to overcome. So actually having one step closer to furthermore independence is a major thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's definitely opened my eyes, and it makes me... I'm not saying it makes me more greedy, but it makes me more hungry looking for more employment, new employment, because we have to turn around. I wouldn't say educate these big companies and everything else, but let them know that, there are organisations like Midland Mencap, Mine, Rathbone, who have got clients struggling to get employment or voluntary work.
Yeah. Do you have any of upcoming events?
Oh yeah, every day. So
Quite busy come September.
So we run a job club.
Yes, a job club. I do the job club every Wednesday from about 11:30 down at the hub in Wheelie Castle Community Centre now. And we'll just go through. It's like a 6-week program. It's a drop-in session, so you can come and go as you please. And we'll just do, building CVs together. It's a chance for you to meet other people as well that are on the project or not on the project. I mean, it's for anyone.
We are extending this out to the other 2 hubs, one in Warsaw and one in Clifton Road in Sutton Coldfield as well.
Yeah.
And we're on a training course for ESOL. So we'll be able to deliver ESOL courses for our clients as well, because we know English and maths is a barrier, and it's offering that on a one-to-one trust. Once we register someone, they know us, and we build, it's about building that trust factor. And who better to offer those courses as well? Yeah. So that will be another thing we'll be offering. We're actually producing a new Faircraft course as well for September. And this is something that we actually support our clients with as well. So that will be happening once a month, starting from September. We've got a couple of things that are in the pipelines about getting people in to voluntary work within the Pure team and within Midland Mencap. We've got a volunteer sector as well. So that's another way we can support people into employment as well.
That's great. And also, just to confirm, is it just Birmingham area that you support?
You have to be registered on the council tax to Birmingham. Right. Okay. There are other organisations that are in the surrounding area, but one thing we don't do, if someone does ring us from Sandwell or Bree, we'll try our best to find out which organisation.
Where to put them in contact.
And I think I've done that with you a couple of times, Ashleigh. And I think it's very important. It's not about saying, oh no, we don't support that area. I treat it as a brokerage. You've got someone reaching out to you. Let's see what we can do for them.
Definitely. So if someone were to listen to this podcast and this interview today, and they were really wanting to get involved because there was some way, shape or form that you guys could help them, how would they get in touch? Okay.
Obviously, you've got Midland Mencap's number 0121 442 2944. And obviously, if you want to email the Pure team, it's Pure, that's Pure, at midlandmencap.org.uk. I'm more than happy to give my mobile number as well. I've got no issue because I am the lead for the Pure team. It's 0791 226 8889. And I always say, because I want to make sure that people can reach people. And, some people might not have that technology of having a PC or a computer. So whatever way or form,
And I suppose as well with that Jobs Club at Wheelie Castle Community Centre, is it just free for all that anyone can drop in, even without notification that they are going to do it? So say if someone wanted to find out more information but didn't feel comfortable or confident calling you or emailing you, happy for them to pop down to the community centre.
We do run it on Friday as well, but the other thing I like to say is, if they can't make it on Wednesday or Friday, you've got my number, ring me up. I'll make sure we'll get in touch with you somehow and we can arrange it. We've got the IT equipment to meet you outside. So, it's not that we don't work on our time, we work on our clients' time. And that's why we have to be flexible as well,
Definitely. And I think that's a massive thing as well, because as I say, people generally with disabilities and long-term health conditions, we do need a little bit more flexibility in terms of being able to say, you know what, if my disability affects my level of tiredness first thing in the morning, for example, an afternoon might be easier for you to contact me. And that's, again, is a massive thing, being able to be flexible for that person depending on their individual requirements. And that also builds in with that confidence that person has then to be able to engage with you guys. So I think for me, thank you so much for taking part. If there's anything else that you'd like to add.
I'd just like to say, the job clubs we run, what's so unique, the one we run in the hub, is the fact that some of the clients that have come into the hub, done the job club, have actually tapped into the activities that we offer as well, like the bowling, the cycling. And that's what's so good about it. It's not just about work, it's about activities as well. So they both fit in with each other as well. But no, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having and coming over with us today. It's been really helpful. Thank you. Now, obviously, this month, being as we are talking about employment, we haven't actually done anything based around entertainment this month, have we?
No, we haven't.
And I think that's because we had made the decision that we really want to give this topic of discussion justice, because it is a huge issue, employment is, for people with disabilities and long-term health conditions. So thought we'd discuss it a bit more in depth, really. So we've come up with some things that we want to discuss. And I suppose my first question to you, Curtis, would be, what has been your experience of finding and applying for jobs?
Well, I applied for a job at Marks and Spencer's with a company I was with. I can't remember the name of it. I went there for about a day, but I explained to my accessibility needs, and they didn't seem to take in that I couldn't stand. But when I went for my first day there, there wasn't any chairs for me to sit down. I don't know whether it was like lack of communication or anything. But I was told I could sit down, but there's literally nowhere to sit down. No, in the shoe section, Ashleigh, before you even say anything.
How did you know that I was going to say that?
Oh.
Well, that is actually what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to mention about the shoe section.
Yeah.
But I guess within, your job role there, it wasn't even possible, because if you were in one department, you couldn't even, run over to the shoe section to have a 5-minute sit down, could you? And how did that affect you then afterwards?
The day after, I couldn't walk my leg. I couldn't move my legs. And that just made me feel degrading, because I thought, plus I really enjoyed it on the first day. I've come home buzzing and everything, but I thought I can't do it. But yeah.
That's the worst bit, isn't it? I mean, I've done things previously, mainly when I'm in the gym and stuff, where I end up doing it because I can push through whatever pain it is and stuff. And then the day after, I feel actually twice as disabled as what I originally went in there. And it's really annoying, isn't it? That is.
Yeah. What has been your experience with interviews?
So I think I'm very fortunate, really, from the point of view of having quite a lot of interview experience from a really young age. So obviously I've mentioned before, I have always ridden. I've ridden since I was 7. I started competing at the age of 12 and internationally since I was 14. So I've been involved in various different squads, like the regional squad, the national squad, and then I was on Team GB from 16. And all of those teams, the squads with everything, we were actually made. We had to go through a selection process. Yeah. And one of the stages of the selection process was actually having an interview. So at the age of 14, I was put into a scenario, and every 2 years after that, I was put into a scenario where I was put in a big room with a massive table with 4 people on one side and I was on the other side. I couldn't use my name for reference. I was only given a number. So, candidate A, candidate B, whatever that was. And then to make matters worse, there was actually a video recorder right in the corner recording everything that I answered with those questions. So I feel that I've been really fortunate in having very good interview experience from a young age. So I think I know how to talk in an interview. Now, one thing that I actually find really, really difficult is knowing when to bring up reasonable adjustments that I need. I'm really good and I'm extremely upfront when I'm applying for a job. I will always talk about my disability, because I think it's a massive, massive strength, really, because it gives you a whole new set of skills like resilience. You end up having a harder work ethic than quite a lot of other people have, because you have to work harder to be able to do the things that you want to and overcome barriers fundamentally. So I'll always talk about my disability in the application process, but I hate talking in an interview about what reasonable adjustments I need, because I don't want to make that or put any prejudice against me from that interviewer of thinking, oh, you know, she's ever so good at interviewing, but what reasonable adjustments am I going to have to put in place so that she can do this job?
Yeah.
And at what cost? I want someone to make their decision on me based on my capability of being able to do the job, not based on what reasonable adjustments that I need. Now, one interview that stood out for me above anything else was actually the one that I did here at Midland Mencap. So I originally applied for a completely different role to the one that I'm now in. And I do think to a point, my disability did come in good stead in terms of enabling me to secure an interview, because there were so many candidates for this job that I actually applied for. And I do think my disability helped me get that interview. And it was the very first interview I'd actually walked into, where one of the questions that the interviewers actually asked me is, what do you need so that we can help you do your job effectively if you're successful? And everything. And that's just a major weight lifted off my shoulders, because, you know, I was able to be completely upfront and honest about all the ways my disability can affect me in the workplace and what I personally think that I need in order to enable me to do my job as best as I possibly can. So that was like the best experience that I've had from the point of view of an interview, I think. So I suppose the next question that I want to ask you is, obviously you've said about your experience of your job at M&S. What was your experience of your employer in particular?
I think it's just like lack of communication. Like I explained about my legs and everything, but I think for me, like they didn't listen. Which I find very degrading, like I was saying. Because if I was given the appropriate tools, I would have been. I think I would still be at that Marks and Spencer's today, because I did like it there. It was nice. There was nice people in there.
Yeah, it wasn't because you didn't feel out of place.
No.
It was literally just because there was lack of communication.
Yeah. If you could give any advice to help them become more accessible, what would it be?
So I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there in terms of organisations and employers, really. The main thing that I would say to an employer taking on someone with a disability would be the importance of communication, because that makes all the difference between feeling like you can go up to your line manager or whoever that is to say, look, I'm struggling with this. I need your help. We need to find a solution for this. Because it's quite, I don't know, I think we get into a habit when you've got a disability of feeling like we've got to try and mask the symptoms that come with it and the things that we find difficult. So it doesn't look like we're finding things as hard as what we are. And I think we're actually, people with disabilities, we're actually masters at being able to mask all of the symptoms, and we shouldn't have to be. Being in an environment where you're able to feel like you can communicate things that you are finding difficult is really important. So just as an example, like obviously I've got autism, and I can get quite stressed. If I've got quite a lot on my plate, I can get quite stressed. My line manager, Pam, is absolutely amazing, because it's almost like she can sort of tell without me even saying anything when I am stressed. So she knows when to pull me up for a quick conversation and everything. Likewise, I always feel like she's always got a spare 5 minutes if I need to speak to her and get something off my chest, even no matter how stupid it is. And I know that quite a lot of things that I talk about that I'm stressed about are quite stupid, because actually it's all in my head. But she always makes me feel like she's got time to speak to me and everything. Like, so for as an example, like if I'm really busy and I've got lots of things that I need to do, and I've got all similar deadlines, it's one of those things, as someone with autism, I always end up thinking I've got to get all of this done in one go at the same time. But that's not necessarily always possible, is it, to be able to get it done at the same time? So speaking to Pam and, you know, being able to go, what's my priority here, and being able to talk it through is actually really, really good to have, being able to communicate that, because being able to talk it through it sort of allows you to walk away with an open mind, being able to come back to your jobs refreshed and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it is communication above anything else is the most important thing. So I think, obviously, we need to come up now. And hopefully, if any organisation here is actually listening, I want us to give them some benefits of employing people with disability. So have you got any benefits that you can think of?
Someone with autism, I've got IT.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be an IT geek. I love computers. And I think the more focused and more the homing on stuff more.
Yeah.
The more they want to not want to prove themselves. They want to do their best.
Definitely. And I think, like what you've just said, I think quite a lot of people with autism, not stereotyping here, but, you know, when you find something that you genuinely enjoy, you end up really, really ultra focused on it, don't you?
Yeah.
So you'd find quite a lot of people wouldn't necessarily like IT or coding, whereas you'd be really good at it because if you enjoy it, you're going to do an even better job at it because you're so focused on it. And I think that's where you end up athletes as well, really successful athletes, whether they are classed as para-athletes or able-bodied athletes. You find that that's where the most successful athletes are. They've probably got a degree of autism because look at how much you're actually having to sacrifice in order to be successful at your sport. You're having to give up things that you might want to eat because you've got to eat a certain way to be fit and healthy for your sport. You've got to train. Some people have to train 2-3 times a day. Physio. And then there's your social life as well, isn't there? Because you've got to give that away in order to be successful at your sport. And quite a lot of successful athletes have that tunnel vision to be able to do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if quite a lot of athletes have a degree of autism anyway. Have you got any more at all?
Like I said, they're focused.
Yeah.
And the one, like you were saying, they need to get it done there and then.
Yeah, it's almost a bit like perfectionist, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that is a really good skill. For me, I think resilience that people with a disability have is essential for organisations to hire and employ, because I think our generation and even younger generations, I say quite easy. If the going gets tough, they quit, drop it, and everything. And as someone with a disability, because we have to go through quite a lot of adversity on a regular basis, we have daily challenges and daily barriers that we've got to overcome. We're used to having to try this, try that, try this again, try that again. Until we find our own way of doing something that suits us best. So I think actually that resilience is absolutely imperative for an organisation to be successful at what they do. And a lot of disabled people can offer that resilience. And also, I think actually when you take on people with a disability, there's lower staff turnover as well, because I think... And I know this is stereotyping, but a lot of able-bodied people, because it's slightly easier for them to get a job than what it is for us, you know, it's looking at the future constantly. This is my next goal. This is the next job that I want and everything. Whereas when you have a disability, you've got to refine what you're looking for job-wise so that you're able to fulfil that job. So when we're actually given an opportunity and we're actually taken on for a job, you end up staying a lot longer, because if you like it, you find it challenging enough in a way that you enjoy, but it's somewhere that you feel safe, confident and comfortable with, you are more likely to stay a lot longer. And that's where staff retention comes in for people with disabilities. You're going to stay somewhere that you feel comfortable and confident, because that's an absolute massive thing, I think, for people with disabilities, to feel confident and comfortable where you are and everything. So I think the next one that we need to talk about is news alerts. So I've been on and I've had a look, and this was from the Disability News Service. So research shows how tens of thousands of disabled staff are actually managed out of their jobs. So new research shows that disabled employees are actually being managed out of their jobs. So the researchers concluded that the Equality Act was failing to live up to its potential, with many employers failing to create an inclusive workspace, which is a massive necessity for disabled people. They heard that the time taken to implement reasonable adjustments can range from 10 minutes to 7 years. So one disabled person, for example, has actually been placed on gardening leave for 2 years. And can you guess what they were trying to do?
Go on.
They were actually just trying to obtain a particular mouse for their computer to be able to do their work effectively. And you just look at it, don't you? If you're looking at taking on someone with a disability, being in work when you have a disability, it gives you such a huge purpose and everything. And you know, putting that back and saying you're not able to come into work today because we haven't got a sufficient mouse that you can use that's accessible for you. Again, that's just completely degrading, isn't it? It's horrible.
Yes.
So I find that really interesting, and that goes to show just how much employers really need to do to make things far more accessible in the workplace, really. So we need to get on to questions from the citizens.
Yeah.
So do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, if you could try any sport, what would it be?
If I could try any sport, I think it would have to be cycling. Just because of, you know, I quite like the riding in the way that you always end up getting off the horse and, you know, you sort of feel a bit grateful because you've got off in one piece, because that horse has got a mind of its own, and far stronger and could do anything. If it didn't want you on its back, it could throw you off. So I always feel quite thankful when I get off my horse and everything. And I think cycling is a bit similar to that, because if you just make one little mistake, you know, the possibility for injury is absolutely just, it could be catastrophic. And I find that quite exhilarating, to be honest. So, got another question. Did you watch the Commonwealth Games, and what was your favourite event?
I've got a confession, I didn't watch it. I watched the ending ceremony, where obviously Osborne came on. That's the only bit I watched. And I know I'll hold my head in shame. And I know I was baton bearer, I'll hold my head in shame.
I actually think you should. Like, how can you actually be a baton bearer and not have watched any of the Commonwealth? Like, you actually should feel embarrassed.
I am.
It's a joke. But don't worry again, we'll try not to hold that against you. I am a little bit, but I'd say mine, obviously, it was the cycling. And, you know, unfortunately, some people with autism, I'm one of them. I get entertained by things that you really shouldn't be. So there was quite a few incidents that led to quite a few injuries in the cycling, which is what I watched it for, to be fair, because I like those types of things. It's like with my sport, I couldn't sit and watch the dressage, which is basically like the dancing for horses or anything. Couldn't watch that. If I had to watch anything in equestrian, it would be eventing, in particular the cross country, because that's when the horses are full, like jumping over logs and everything, and that's really dangerous. So there's more risk of the riders falling off. So that. The cycling was my event because there was no equestrian in it. Now, have we got any more?
What would you change about the Commonwealth Games?
You know what? I was really pleased with the Commonwealth Games, mainly because the paras were actually integrated with able body. But I don't know whether it was the times that I was watching it and everything, but it just didn't seem that the paras necessarily had quite as much coverage as able body. I'd probably change that so that both able body and paras had equal amount of coverage. The other thing, and I know this is controversial, so I do apologise to anyone who does follow and love this sport. You know, each to their own. I would have probably taken out lawn bowls, personally. I think the low over the past couple of weeks was actually catching my boyfriend. He was looking at the scores for the lawn bowls, and I wasn't impressed because But each to their own. So again, I do apologise for anyone who does follow the lawn bowls. It is a sport and it is technical, but it's not one for me. I think it's time that we need to ask the audience now. Yeah. So obviously, we've come up with a few benefits of hiring people with a disability, but we want to ask you, what benefits do you think there are for organisations employing people with a disability? So how can people send in their ideas?
You can leave your comment in comment below, and we'll try and include it in the next podcast.
Yeah, we'd be really interested to know, I think.
Yeah.
Comment in and let us know on your thoughts on the benefits of employers employing someone with a disability. So next is Spotlight Story. Now, this is something that I'd seen Curtis put up and share on his Facebook. And I'd actually commented on it saying, we need to include this in this month's podcast. And just to make sure he did, I actually stalked him on Facebook just so that we can include it in the notes for today.
Yes, you did.
So take it away, Curtis.
Yeah, a mother took her son to the supermarket. The son is on the autistic spectrum. The young man found a messy shelf and reordered all the products in order. The mother took a picture of him before and after the arrangement. She shared on social media and commented, what would happen if companies started hiring people with autism? They will have an organised, efficient member of staff, and they will not stop until the job is completed. We all have a role in life.
Now, I think that, for me, when I read that was really poignant, because I think it just goes to show quite a lot of people with disabilities aren't given an opportunity where they should be.
Yeah.
And I'll have to ask James and Katie to share the photo that it came along with for when this podcast actually comes out, because it was lovely. So there was a before and after photo, and this lad, wasn't he? Yeah. He looked quite distressed at the first photo, because this shelf was diabolical. It looked like a bomb site, I think. And he looked really distressed. And then the second photo was after he arranged it all. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have had the patience to be able to lay that out in an organised way in the same way that he did. Yeah. But he looked really happy and content. Now, I'm not going to lie, I think quite a lot of our supermarkets could hire more people with autism. I mean, Aldi is a prime example, I think. Sometimes, and I've only been in there a couple of times, but the times that I've gone into Aldi, the shelves are all really disorganised, and I end up walking out because I can't stand it. It stresses me out. Yeah. So I do think, Aldi, if you are looking, find people with autism. Yeah. They will put your shelves completely right. Yeah. But yeah, I think, as I say, moral to all of this podcast, actually, disabled people have so much to offer in the workspace, and we need to be given more of a chance. So even if we haven't necessarily got it on our CV, maybe giving us the opportunity to volunteer, that could actually turn into paid work, because we shouldn't have to work for nothing. We all deserve a purpose in life. So if you're an employer seriously looking for someone to employ in your organisation, give someone with a disability a chance. Yeah, definitely. Because they can work miracles, I think, in certain ways. Yeah. So thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
And we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.
Bye.